Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Zipporah Mwangi and I'm excited to have you on board. On this channel we have conversations about lifestyle, education and kingdom living. And our theme verse is Proverbs 23 verse 23 that talks about buy truth and do not sell it, and knowledge, wisdom and instruction. So we are here to gather in as many principles from the Word of God as possible so that we do life well and we do it God's way. That's our tagline here. Now, we've been on a journey and we've been looking at certain issues in the family and addressing difficult conversations and, complacent fatherhood. And we want to continue on with that theme because I feel there are so many things and they're written in scripture that are supposed to help us address the difficult issues in our homes. And so today we continue on and we want to look at a number of people and we want to see how certain season can cause you to have an impaired sense of judgment. Now, let's look at Genesis chapter 33 and we read from verse 16 to 20. It says, "So that day Esau started on his way back to Seir. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself, made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth. After Jacob came from Paddan Aram, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem in Canaan, and camped within sight of the city. For 100 pieces of silver he bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the plot of ground where he pitched his tent. There he set up an altar and called it El Elohi Israel." Now, let's move on to Genesis chapter 34, verse 1 and 2. "Now Dinah, the daughter Leah had born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and raped her." Now, we see several things here when we look at this conversation. First and foremost, we see that Jacob had been living away. He had lived for 14 good years. He'd gotten two wives, Rachel, Leah. He'd gotten sons and he'd gotten daughters. He'd gotten children. But his wives and the other two women, should we call them, they're not necessarily concubines, but really the women that came along with Rachel and Leah. Now, he got to reunite with his brother Esau, but because he was afraid of Esau, we call these things family feud, family wrangles about inheritance. They had a disagreement where, because Jacob had run off with his brother's birthright, and he'd gotten the father's blessing, and here he was 20 years later. But we see, because he was afraid, he did not want to settle anywhere near Esau. Now, we find that he then arrives at a city called Shechem, and it is in Canaan. And there he gets to purchase a piece of land. He decides he's going to live not within the city, but close enough, and he purchases a piece of land at 100 pieces of silver. And then we find that, because we need the setting right. The reason why I say this is because any decision you make as a parent could be the very decision that could negatively or positively influence your children's lives. Now, either directly or indirectly. So after that, then we've just read that then we find this daughter, Dinah, Jacob's daughter, decides to go and visit women from the land of Canaan. And so we see several things here. One, it is actually a very unfortunate event, because here we find that she's raped by a leader in Shechem. This man had a leadership position. So when we think of it, this was a ruler in that area. So another thing we see here is that Dinah was only doing what women do, which is they go out and hang out with other women. Now, so it was not Dinah's necessarily her mistake that she went out and hung out with these women and eventually got raped. We see the father's contribution because he is the one who set camp outside the city. He's the one who set camp outside the city among a people who did not know God, did not serve God, their values were not right. So he's the one who set her up for trouble because he made a decision to come and live near a people who seem to not necessarily have a regard for the integrity of women. Now, and this is the thing we were saying, because even when we look at matters how the issue of rape and in church, we found that it is perpetrated a lot by people who are in leadership positions because there's a sense of authority that they have that could override a person's consent. Now, let's look at Genesis chapter 12 and we read verse 10 to 20. It says, "Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, 'I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife, then they will kill me. But we let you live. Say, you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you.' Now, when Abram came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that Sarai was a very beautiful woman. And when Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into this palace. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep, cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. But the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram. 'What have you done to me?' he said. 'Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister? So that I took her to be my wife. Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go.' Then Pharaoh gave orders about Abram to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had." I will keep repeating this. It's an underlying theme about the relationships and some of the things that happen to us at certain times of life. We said one of the things that actually we must watch out for are the seasons of our life. We find that Abram, here, he had not been called Abraham yet. Abram, there was a famine in the land. So he decides he goes down to Egypt because, there was food there, he could get help. But one of the things that you find is it is in the season of his difficult times that he also makes a foolish decision. What is this foolish decision? He decides that he's going to tell his wife to say that, "No, go and say you are my sister so that my life is spared." Is that not a selfish move? Again, we are looking into the fact that Abram at this point only wanted to save his life. He did not think about what if this man takes Sarai and she actually becomes a wife and gets children by Pharaoh. Honestly, what would he have said? You see how you can get an impaired judgment because of your season of life. During those difficult seasons of life, be careful about the kind of decisions you're making. Now, what was the cause? What really led him to this place where he was telling Sarai? Because now I see it as he was using Sarai as a human shield. And there are many times in our relationships where we use one another as a shield. We want to protect our lives. We want to protect our interests. So we want to use that person to escape a certain consequence of our decision. What was the expectation? This is your wife. If you have to die for her, by all means, go for it. Because you made a decision that you are going to marry her. You're going to have children with her. This is it. Part of being the head of a home means you need to protect your wife. But you see here, Abram was more concerned about what? The fact that Pharaoh and his men would attack him and he would end up dying because he had a beautiful wife. And you see something that happens is this man, Pharaoh believed this guy. He has said this is his sister, so this is the case. And he actually even received all these gifts. So it means there is a transaction that is going on here that this man is acquiring. Pharaoh is actually looking for a wife to marry. And there's a legal transaction that is taking place where a sense of dowry is being passed on to Abram. And imagine he still received it. Do you know what I think is even worse? The fact that first he sat, thought about that these men are most likely going to desire for Sarai. And then secondly, that he had no courage to say no to the gifts that he received. And you know what? As I said, every single decision you choose to make, you are teaching your generations to come. You are leaving them a legacy on how they need to do life. And we are soon going to see what happens to Isaac, because this is how family patterns are set. Your mistakes become the very foundation on which your sons either they have to come and build, or work very hard to remove that foundation. So why don't we just set up the right foundation, even matters marriage, matters relationships, so that then our children have a much better chance of doing life. They don't have to keep on doing the wrong decisions that we have made. So really, we can see that Abram was more afraid of men than of his responsibility or his duty to his wife as a husband. And you know, we also notice something. Abram married a beautiful woman. So let's read Genesis chapter 26. And we see Isaac and Abimelech. Now, there was a famine in the land, besides the previous famine that in Abraham's time. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines in Gerar. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land where I tell you to live." So Isaac stayed in Gerar. When the men of that place asked him about his wife, he said, "She's my sister," because he was afraid to say, "She's my wife." He thought, the men of this place might kill me on account of Rebeccah, because she's beautiful. When Isaac had been there a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked down from a window and saw Isaac caressing his wife Rebeccah. So Abimelech summoned Isaac and said, "She is really your wife. Why did you say she is my sister?" Isaac answered him, "Because I thought I might lose my life on account of her." Then Abimelech said, "What is this you have done to us? One of the men might well have slept with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." Now, let's look at this conversation. I mean, it's a copy and paste, similar situation. Abram found himself in a season where there was famine. He had difficulty in his life. We could actually say financial difficulty. There were challenges with food. There were difficulties, just challenges in his life. Isaac has found himself similar situation. How is he responding to this problem? Imagine at the point at which Abram made that similar decision, Isaac was not born. So Isaac was in the loins of his father. So what we are saying is Isaac was going to be born many years later. Maybe 20 or so years later is when he was going to be born. But you know what? That decision you've chosen to make, that decision I've chosen to make, is recorded in the spiritual realm. There's nothing that is not taken into account. There are books that are written. Now we find the same thing happening to Isaac. He found himself in a place. One, he marries a beautiful woman, because that's what you found. That is what is done in your home. You guys are attracted to beautiful women, which is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is that he finds himself in a similar issue like his father. And what does he do? He exactly does what his father did. He lies about his wife being his sister, because he wanted to use Rebeccah as a human shield. Again, the same thing, where you simply you want to survive. This is what I want to challenge all of us. In your difficult seasons of life, when you want to survive, I wonder who it is you want to trade. I wonder who it is you are willing to trade their destiny, you are willing to trade their lives, you are willing to trade. What is this thing that you are willing to trade in your seasons of difficulty? Are you willing to trade your integrity? Because things are thick, and so you are willing to take up that corrupt deal. Remember, you are simply laying a foundation for your generations. So, Abraham lied. Isaac also lied. Now, let's move on to Genesis chapter 34 and continue on with that story that we were reading about Dinah. Now, verse 3. His heart was Shechem. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock. So he did nothing about it until they came home. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come in from the fields. As soon as they heard what had happened, they were shocked, furious, because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. Now, let's look at several things here. Number one, we said in one of our previous videos that we have 3 different categories of sexual offenders. We said the first one is a predator. We said that there is also another one called the wanderer, who is an individual that in times of difficulty, they probably commit a rape. We also found that there's a third category we call a lover, a man that rapes a woman and believes he actually loves her, and that is the reason why actually he committed the rape. Now, this gentleman called Shechem is in this category because his heart was drawn to Dinah. But for me, I really wonder how genuine this concern or love all of a sudden is, because if you love someone, and let's read the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 to 7, it says, "Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, rejoices in truth, it always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres." Do you think that Shechem loved Dinah? The answer is definitely no, because he's broken some of the aspects of love. He had no honor for this woman. If he really loved her, he should have married her. 2, it does not delight in evil. What business did he have, committing such an outrageous thing in Israel? And it was wrong. He did not protect her, because really, if he loved her, he should have protected her. And so we see also several other things, because I think this is also interesting, because we see when Jacob had, what did he do? He did nothing until his sons came home. Can you see this thing for passive, complacent fatherhood? It seems to be a running theme in a number of the lives of many men. And this is what I want to say, because if you find yourself that you are unable to deal or address difficult conversations, by all means pursue the help of the Holy Spirit. Because let me tell you something, many men that knew the Lord have also struggled with complacency. It is not that they were bad men, but they just had an inability. Maybe their personality, their temperament was the kind that is not able to face issues one-on-one. But that is not an excuse for not protecting your children from harm. You must guard the integrity of your children. It is important that you do that. Now, we also see that Shechem had got honestly, I don't know. I think sometimes when you're in leadership, it can get to your head, where you get to the place where you want to cover up for the sin that you have committed. And let me tell you something, because David found himself in a similar situation with Bathsheba, he also did the same. He wanted to cover up. He, instead of going to battle like other men do in the spring, what did he do? He was chilling. He was just walking on his balcony up in house, enjoying. And then he saw a woman that was bathing down there. And you know what? Of course, this lady was simply doing what she knew how to do. The men were not supposed to be there anyway. So it's not like she was expecting to be seen. And he also used his authority, his leadership, to get Bathsheba into his home, had a sexual intercourse with her, and eventually she gets pregnant. Let me tell you something. Anybody can make a mistake. Anyone can make a mistake. Now, let's look at a number of things. Now, let's look at some statistics. Now, according to UNICEF, we have 1 in 8 girls have experienced rape or sexual assault before they are the age of 18. Every 1 in 8 girls. That's a huge number. 1 in 5 women or girls have experienced non-contact form of sexual violence, such as online and verbal sexual abuse. Online, 1 in 5. Can you see that the extent or the degree of sexual violence against women is only rising and getting more room in other spaces? So it's not just physical, it is also online. And one of the ways we actually see this, because apart from sex being simply getting abuse, verbal and online abuse, we find that there are individuals, they get into relationships with women, they take pictures and record videos, they take images, and then they trade out these images and videos on Telegram. Now, I don't know if you've heard about these situations, but they are there, they are in existence. And others keep these records until the day they break up with this girl and later on post them online. And then only so that this girl can find shame in the eyes of the public. Or others use it even for political reasons. There are individuals who have vied for certain positions, and only when they have started vying that certain videos crop up. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, watch out. Guard yourself from anything that is called evil. Now, there's also a situation where I'm saying that it is important for all of us to be careful. So don't just get invited to parties and you just go there and you're ignorant and you think, no, I'm actually on my period, I'm quite safe. Maybe you're not. One of the things that happened was that this lady was invited to a party in a home. And so there was a lot of alcohol. And of course, many a times some of these events have a lot of weed, cookies and all manner of random stuff. And so this girl actually got drunk. And when she got drunk, so she slept in that house, but she had no idea that she was raped. This girl didn't know. So what happened was that several months later, she got this very severe pain in the lower part of her abdomen. And so they checked, and everything seemed to be okay, until eventually they realized maybe they need to do a scan. And then once they were doing a scan, what happens? She had a tampon. The tampon had moved up all the way into her uterus. And now, of course, it was decomposing. It's been there for more than a month or so. And so this girl it is at that point, a month, 2 months, 3 months in, that she realized she'd actually been raped. So she did not escape because she was on her period. Let me tell you something. Some of these individuals, we say it like predators, it does not matter. Nothing is going to stop this person from carrying out this offense because they are looking for someone whom they can perform this action with. And so it is important for us to watch out for the people that we are hanging out with, because also in these parties, in fact, recently, there was this event where young high school boys and high school girls were at an event. They were at a sleepover. And eventually what happened? Under no supervision, these children, eventually they had intercourse with each other, and eventually some of them got pregnant as a result of that. Haven't you also heard of situations when in schools where girls have been raped by boys in dormitories? Have you also not heard of instances where the watchmen have been raped by girls? Because this thing is, we need to start having these difficult conversations. Now, a few more statistics for us to think about is that Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest number of victims of sexual violence. We have 79 million girls and women that are affected. I don't know how many women you have in your country, but 79 million is a whole, it's too much, is a lot. Yeah. And then 19% of women that are aged between 18 and 24 years have experienced violence before they were 18. And the perpetrators of the very first incident, meaning some of them have had more than one incidence of rape, have had sexual violence in childhood, and some of them were their classmates. You know something? Because I also had a recent case of a situation where in a kindergarten, let me tell you, we are in a broken world. In a kindergarten, a small girl was raped by small boys. Several small boys raped a girl. Now, honestly, where did these boys, one, how did they get to know that they could actually, where did they get the courage? Where was the teacher? There are so many questions about this situation. What I'm saying is, don't think that because your child is going to a kindergarten, they are too young to understand. You must train them. You must train your children, because training is protection. When people know values, when they know boundaries, they are protected. Now, we must prepare our children for the world we are living in. You and I need to understand something. We'd better accept the world that we are living in. And it is that world that has desensitized, dehumanized people, so much so that then you get to the place where now men and women are so sexualized that every time they see a girl or every time they see a woman, they see a sexual object. You and I need to be careful, train up our children. Remember, we said that predator, that one who's carrying out rape is somebody's son, is somebody's father. Something went wrong somewhere. Whose responsibility was it to train them up in the ways they ought to go? You know, when we instill good values in our children, it gives them an opportunity to make good decisions. And the Bible is clear. Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are older, they shall not depart. It becomes difficult because once you've written the right thing, even if a wrong is instilled into this child, it will always be fighting against the word of God. But if you leave your child as a sponge, a blank document on which the world is going to write, your child is going to be confused, because this world is full of a lot of grays. There are no whites or blacks. It's simply gray areas that encourage a lot of evil. Child prostitution, child trafficking, all manner of wicked things are happening, including trading some human parts. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask us, I challenge us that as potential parents, if you are an aunt, if you are an uncle, take it upon yourself to train your children, to train your nieces and nephews, prepare them for the world. Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this video, and it is my prayer that you have a blessed weekend and week ahead, and God bless you. Bye-bye.